G'day guys, welcome. I'm genuinely pumped for the season. I am. From a holistic point of view, I am pumped for our football club and what lies ahead across the course of the whole season. And I know we've got to focus on the first part of the year, but the challenge is well and truly in front of a group that should be ready to strike. And it's as simple as that. This is not like, all right, we're still building. This is the start of our journey or the midpoint of our journey. This is a time to strike. Now, whether it's this year, next year, the year after, if you're talking potential dynasties or winning multiple premierships, it's got to start somewhere. And I am so intrigued and fascinated to see if this group has got it in them. And there's so many things at play here, guys. Not just, there's the coaching, there's just the ability, I suppose, individually, whether we have the right mix. We seem to be really good at the top end, but potentially our sort of middle rung players, a few question marks on them and a few holes on each line as well. But this club's had a lot of time, to build a list and to bring a coach in who now comes into his fourth season in charge. So this is it's time now to strike, and I love it. I love the high expectations going into this year. I'm not jumping out of my skin for this round one clash, I must say, and I'm here to preview our game against the Tigers. I don't know. I just feel like this matchup to open up round one on a Thursday night at the G is on the nose. It really is. It's on the nose. I'm not sort of terribly excited about this one. I would much prefer both Carlton and Richmond to be in a similar position. Really high expectations on both clubs going into a season. We just never seem to be strong at the same time. And I'm fully expecting us to do a number on the Tigers on Thursday night. And that's not, I don't think that's an overreaction at all. I think, they are. And I don't want to engage in any banter with Richmond supporters. I don't sympathise for where they're at. And maybe this will come back to bite me, being this confident about the first game of the year. Maybe it will, but that's what we do here. That's just an opinion. But this is a really weak Richmond team that we're facing on Thursday night. And I generally go to games in the past quite fearful and worried about the power of a big supporter base, because this is a home game for Richmond, the power of a big supporter base, the power of the underdog coming through. But there's nothing in this Richmond team that I look at and go, fuck, they're going to potentially cause us a few little headaches. And I feel like most Richmond supporters, the realistic ones, would probably agree with me on that. And as I said, this isn't sinking the boots into them, because we know from a Carlton perspective, we know too well what a full rebuild looks like and the pain associated to that. And maybe along the way this year, they'll cause an upset here or there. They'll have periods of games where they might be competitive, and that might even come against us on Thursday nights. But it's a terrible looking team, and maybe I'm underestimating a few sort of younger players on that list, or a few mid-range players. Maybe there's some guys on there who will come out and surprise. I'm sure there will be, but across the board, this is going to be this has the potential to be a really ugly result to start the season off. And I can only see three scenarios, guys. There is the case, which I don't think will happen, where geez, we really battled. We made hard work of that, but we got the chocolates. I actually can't even see that. I can't for the life of me see a situation where Richmond come out and beat us. That's just not going to happen. Then there's the scenario where we win comfortably. We just win comfortably. Your 6 to 7 goals. We don't necessarily sort of extend ourselves too much. And you leave thinking, yeah, we've got a fair bit of work to do, but they're poor. And then the one which I would like to see happen, because we absolutely pumped them, it means that we've played a pretty exciting brand of football, individually and from a team perspective. And our guns have stood up. We've been quite powerful and just really put a poor and inexperienced team to the sword. And I know they've still got a sprinkling of premiership players in there, Broad, Short, Flostone. They've been great servants for the football club. Lynch comes back in after being a long time out. They've got their captain, Nankervis, who's a real battler. And then the experience of a couple of former Giants in Taranto or Hopper. But apart from that, it is like a putrid-looking Richmond team. A putrid-looking Richmond team. And I can see Richmond supporters feeling sort of optimistic because they're going to blood some real super young talent. And you're not going to get it. You're going to get a little snapshot into the talent of a Sam Layla and what Harry Armstrong and Luke Traynor can do. From a big point of view. Traynor down back, but they're kids straight out of the under-18s, and they're going to be asked, Trainer's going to be asked to take on responsibility as a key defender. Armstrong's going to be, like a key forward alongside Tom Lynch. It's just... Anyway, one thing I will say, I completely understand. What I don't understand is a team going through a dynasty like Richmond did. I look at that and think, wow, that was incredible. Like 3 premierships in 4 years, and for that, like their bellies must be sort of still full, and maybe this rebuild for a lot of the supporters of the Tigers and the pain that they're going to go through over the next 2 or 3 seasons will be somewhat bearable. But yeah, it's going to be an ugly 2025 for the Tigers, and I think I'm 98.5% sure it's going to start against us on Thursday night. With us, there's reports that Orazio has done a calf. That stinks. That really stinks if that's the case, because I thought he was outstanding in the scratch match and he's had a really good pre-season. And for him to go down on the eve of the season with a calf injury, if that's true, that's an old man's injury, and he's had calf injuries before. That is no good. And I'm not saying he's going to be a superstar for us, but I think he was going to play an important role to start this season off. So as that high half forward, that connector with some pace and some speed, and uses the ball very well, and he just seemed to be running on top of the ground. That's a big blow. That is another big blow, and just another, I suppose, another question mark on a lot of things at our football club in regards to strength and conditioning and all that type of stuff, and question marks on bringing guys to the football club who are always injured, always got question marks on their bodies. So if that's true, that's very, very disappointing. I feel like Jack down back showed some really good signs in the practice match against the GWS Giants. I've just got this funny feeling that he's going to take Tom Lynch. I think the days of Jacob Wiedering playing on Tom Lynch might be gone. I feel like they're going to try and free both. I'm not saying he will never line up against him, but I feel like that responsibility might go to Jack. And I know Tom Lynch is a lot taller, but he's probably nowhere near the player he was, and he's been out for a long time. I just feel like they're going to use Jack in that role to start the season, which will allow both McGovern and Wiedering to be a lot more proactive in the air and to zone off. So I'm excited to see what that looks like. I'm also interested to see whether Lewis Young will play, given that the Tigers might play Nankervis and Samson Ryan. I actually really like Samson Ryan from the Tigers. I think he got some real ability, but whether they play the two ruckmen, I'm not quite sure. The other ones I'm looking at, absolutely fantastic that Lucas Camporelli makes his debut. I mean, that's one out of the box, like he's just come to the football club and just put his nose down and his ass up and got to work and taken that wing position off some guys that have been sort of plugging away in the VFL for a few seasons now, like a Jackson Binns, and to get an opportunity on the MCG to show his wares and he's going to be on a wing probably against some other young players just trying to make their way in the AFL is really exciting for him. The same with Nick Haynes down back. I'm really, really excited to see what Nick Haynes can add to this back line, just the experience and the level-headedness and the ball use as well. And we've got some injury concerns as well. But I think just sort of looking at it across the board, guys, I mean, I'd love to see Jesse Motlop just have a real breakout game and get his season off to a really good start. He was down against the Giants, but good against the Saints. But I'd love to see him just stamp himself in this game. It's a perfect opportunity for him to do that. And yeah, I just think coming into his fourth season now, it's time for him to really light this up and be a really exciting small forward for us. The one I want to talk about, guys, is Zach Williams. I've just got this. I'm hearing a few things, and just getting a bit of an indication with some of the interviews that Zach Williams has done over the preseason and some interviews recently, that his time as a full-time midfielder is over. Like, that's never going to happen. But I do get the indication that he's going to be spending a bit of time in the middle. And I think if that's not the case, I want it to be the case. I think he is the player obviously we need in our front half, because that's where he's going to spend the predominantly 2025. But he's the player that I think can give us that spark that the other really hardworking midfield group of Cripps and Hewitt and Chera and Walsh don't necessarily give us. And I'm not underselling them, but this group for me to really evolve this year needs to be around the periphery. So I've got my concerns about the class of a Fogarty and the class of a Cottrell to be able to do that, to go into the middle. But I don't have any question marks on the class of Zach Williams. So I would love to see him spend not necessarily a considerable amount of time, but some time at centre bounces and some time further up the ground, because I think he could be the player that can give us that genuine spark. So that's something that really excites me as well. The Harry and Kemp sort of combo to start the season will be fascinating to see how that works, given that Harry only played the one quarter against the Giants and Kemp was really good. He's similar to Jesse Motlop. Like, this is time now. This is time for Kemp to come in and show us that the performance against the Giants and the performance against the West Coast Eagles last year wasn't a flash in the pan. And what better time to do that in round one against potentially a weakened Richmond backline? And that's not underselling Ben Miller or what Nathan Broad can do or Vostone. But there's a big chance for Kemp to get his season off to a really good start. I want to finish on this, guys. I fully expect us to win this game and get our season off to a ripping start and win really well. I think it's a big selection headache for Michael Voss coming into this week. I really do. And it's all around Sam Doherty. And I think it opens up a little bit with some injuries. Fantasia out now and a few other players, Charlie not playing and Newman not being there, Smith not being there, Pitnet, a bit of experience, no Chincotta, no Boyd. So it kind of maybe opens the door a little bit still for Sam Doherty to play. But I think what Sam Mitchell showed against Sydney Swans to open the year up, in regards to selection, he just didn't even consider Jack Gunston or Luke Bruce. He just made the really tough and hard call on a couple of his veterans to say, no, this is what we're going to go with. I think this is a big one. I know we're debuting a first-year player in Lucas Camporelli, and that seems really great. But Doc's struggling. He's struggling. One, he's just not covering the ground well. And two, right here, right now, there's not necessarily a spot for him in this football team other than being, I think the soft option really will be to play him as a sub. I would actually like to see Doc go back and get some serious football under his belt at VFL level rather than just match simulation. So I think it's a big call for Michael Voss, given what transpired at the back end of last year and the selection dilemma and what happened in that elimination final with I suppose this emphasis on playing the veterans and guys who weren't fully fit. I think it's a huge call, and that I can't wait for selection tomorrow night for this game to see whether Sam Doherty's name comes up. I'm sure it will. I'm sure that Michael Voss is looking at this saying we need Sam Doherty in this football team, but I'm not convinced at the moment that should be the case. Anyway, look forward to getting there on Thursday night, and I'm fully expecting a really, really strong performance by our boys and a big win against the Tigers. Speak soon.